The review contains the most popular automatic transmissions. So let's figure out which machines should be avoided. The first gearbox is DP0AL4, which is classified as a hydromechanical unit. Its main problem is oil leakage from under the seals. In addition, a large number of drivers complain of a jerk when switching from first gear to second. This automatic transmission has become the fruit of cooperation between the Peugeot-Citroën concern and Renault SA, and therefore has become widespread in the cars of all three automakers. The only thing is that on the Renault model, the AL4 box was installed under the alias DP0. Renault calls this box DP0, and Peugeot-Citroën AL4. The differences are only in the firmware. Each company has its own. But in terms of hardware, this is the same 4-speed automatic transmission, with the same problems and nuances. Due to its prevalence, car services have already gained vast experience in repair. The main recommendation that can extend the life of the unit is to keep the oil temperature in the box no higher than 90 degrees. That is, do not allow regissing, do not tow anyone, and in no case do not skid. Also, the masters advise installing an additional radiator and checking whether the engine protection interferes with the natural cooling of your transmission. Problems that are not related to normal wear and tear are caused by overheating. To cool the oil, the engineers provided only a small heat exchanger, which is not enough in extreme operating conditions. Therefore, in hot weather and during dynamic driving, the driver can easily send the box into emergency mode. Most often, due to overheating, the valve body plate warps, after which the switching becomes harder and increased wear of the mechanical parts begins. Which in the end always leads to its premature death due to the accelerated appearance of a large amount of wear products in the oil. Electrohydraulic control valves or solenoids are highly unreliable. It is not the mechanical part that breaks in them, but the electrician, and the same overheating is to blame for this. The rest of the breakdowns mostly occur after the end of the warranty. A torque converter usually lives a little more than 100,000 kilometers. With age the pressure sensor begins to lie, the turbine shaft bushings wear out, and scuffing appears on some plain bearings and the filter becomes critically clogged. The list also includes the AMT DSG from the VW concern, which is installed on many Seat, Skoda, and Volkswagen models. DSG robots have long been haunted by the glory of being problematic. Since their inception, they have experienced many modifications and upgrades, partially got rid of many shortcomings, but the damaged reputation still makes itself felt. This unit has a simplified and cheaper design, designed to transmit a relatively small torque. An imperfect control algorithm and design features lead to a twitchy rhythm of work and, as a result, accelerated wear of transmission parts. This gearbox has two modifications, early 0 AM and late 0 CV. The avalanche share of problems disappeared after the modernization of the unit, carried out in 2011. But even after that, the box can hardly be called reliable. The second modernization took place in 2014, and it already had a positive result. The resource of parts has increased significantly. Problems specific to the DQ200 include accelerated clutch wear, shift fork bearing failure, and shift mechanism failure. The clutch kit, after several upgrades, increased its resource to 100,000 kilometers. The bearings on the shift forks most often suffer if the clutch is not replaced in time, or as a result of engine chip tuning or too aggressive driving. The node responsible for gear shifting fails spontaneously. The official service changes it entirely, and craftsmen have already learned how to repair it. Spare parts necessary for the repair of mechatronics are available for sale. The most difficult operation associated with a 7-speed dry DSG is changing the shift fork bearings. The official service prefers to change the entire box. But some masters have learned how to disassemble and assemble them, replacing worn parts. This is not a cheap operation and takes several days. Specialists capable of repairing such gearboxes do not sit idle. As a rule, the queue for them stretches for weeks. To extend the life of the DQ200, experts recommend changing the oil in the box every 50,000 runs. There are certain complaints about the JF011E variators from Jatco, which are installed on a number of models of Suzuki, Nissan, Peugeot, Dodge, Renault, etc. For preventive purposes, experts recommend changing the oil and filters in a continuously variable gearbox more often. The most widespread failure of this variator is the wear of the bearings of the drive and driven shafts, which is expressed in a strong hum from the transmission when the machine is moving. They usually change all 4 bearings at once, so as not to disassemble the box once again. In second place in the frequency of calls to services is the stretching of the belt, the resource of which is highly dependent on the driving style. Often it stretches even up to 100,000 kilometers when replacing a regular belt with 10 tapes. It is better to install a reinforced one with 12 tapes. If you ignore the recommendations for changing the lubricant in CVT, then the wear products will gradually clog the oil pump pressure relief valve and frequent transmission jerks will appear. When replacing, instead of the usual one, it is better to put a valve with an increased diameter of 17.63 mm. The most unreliable gearbox is the domestic AMT unit, which is installed on the Lada Vesta. It is noted that this machine has the smallest service life. The clutch mechanism wears out especially quickly due to frequent overheating. As a legacy from mechanics, this unit inherited regular oil leaks from oil seals. Nothing special can be done. Carefully monitor the level of lubrication. Sometimes the robotic box goes into a stupor, ceasing to respond to commands. In this case, only flashing the control unit will help you. Sometimes vibrations are pestering when the clutch disc is worn out at low mileage. Only replacement helps. In 2016, AvtoVAZ changed its supplier and the problem went away. Most often, car owners with such a manual transmission complain about delays or jerks when switching. They are especially manifested while driving in city traffic or when starting uphill. Sometimes this robot generally behaves inadequately. It will drop several gears for no reason, or vice versa. It drives for a long time and hard at high engine speeds, not even intending to switch. LUK01J or Multitronic for Audi is a continuously variable transmission for vehicles with longitudinally mounted engines. The transmission carries up to 400 Nm of torque and uses a chain instead of a steel drive belt. However, it is worth studying it carefully before buying such a car, because this automatic transmission is infamous due to many different failures. Typical problems in operation are jerking at low speeds, the car creeping in the N position. Another symptom is that the engine stalls after switching to D. The reason is often the rapid wear of the chain and damage to the bevel wheels that transmit the drive. The computer that controls the box is also problematic. Failures happen quite early, with a run of about 120,000 kilometers, and the astronomical costs of repairs make it unprofitable. The first copies, released before 2005, were a nightmare and barely nursed 100,000 kilometers. Those CVTs could start to fail after an oil change. The valve blocks in them were frankly unsuccessful, and those CVTs that were designed to work in pairs with diesel engines and a 3-liter gasoline engine were later changed by the manufacturer under warranty due to design defects. Problems in Multitronic caused almost all components of its design. A small defect, leading, for example, to a decrease in the oil in the system leads to the fact that Multitronic receives serious damage already within a couple of hours of operation. Paired with a powerful engine, frequent acceleration, trailer towing greatly reduce the life of the variator. The maximum service life of Multitronics is 300,000 kilometers. The reliability of this variator is very dependent on the year of manufacture. The newer, the better. All front-wheel drive Audi models with petrol engines, as well as diesel engines 1.9 TDI, 2.0 TDI, and C2.5 TDI V6 were equipped with Multitronic. Audi DL501. The commercial name of the S-Tronic box. It is an automated double-clutch transmission and is designed for models with engines mounted longitudinally with a maximum torque of 550 Nm. The box has 7 gears, and the range of gear ratios, depending on the engine, can reach 8:1. Very often there are malfunctions in the mechatronics, which disables the clutch pack. Replacing the node does not solve the problem. Factory repair gives the best result, where they know how to correct design flaws. Problems with the box occur regularly. Not all services are able to cope with its repair, the cost of which is very high. Well, it will be very interesting to know if you agree with this list, and that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. I will be very grateful if you subscribe to the channel. See you soon.